expanded functions, third-party app integration, multi-slot support. It's time to really incorporate Seti Astro Suite into your workflow. Welcome to Seti Astro. Version 2.5 is out, so be sure to head over to SetiAstro.com. Under Astro Program, Seti Astro Suite. It's updated to 2.5, be sure to get the download there. I think this is going to be a two-part video. Part 1 will just be covering all the updates in Seti Astro Suite. A lot going on in version 2.5. And then another video later for, actually processing an image. So I think, like many people, I get annoyed when I got to jump around between program to program. Some of this functionality definitely is duplicated in, other photo editing and astrophotography software. But for me, once I get into Seti Astro Suite to do some processing, I'd like to continue the processing without having to save and then reopen and save and reopen. So let's just cover some of the updates now. So we still have all our core tabs here, and you can find those under quick navigation, all our normal core tabs. There's also a functions menu item now with all these different functions, and all these functions are also laid out here on a toolbar. The toolbar is movable if you want to, move it off to the side. So while you're processing over here, you could have a quick access to the toolbars over there. You could even put it on the bottom if you choose. And I added a bunch of hotkeys. So, Control O to open, Control S to save, undo, redo, Control Z, Control Y. These are just a lot of standard keys, right? And then there are hotkeys for pretty much everything here. Feel free to use them or not, but they're in there now. One of the big things that kind of was a hang up in the previous Seti Astro Suite was each tab was kind of its tab unto itself. We finally did push the image to go from tab to tab, but you still had to kind of save the image, maybe open a new image. So I've introduced slots. Slot 0 is going to be our working directory slot. This is the slot where, as you're processing images in like statistical stretch, cosmic clarity, curves, this is the slot where the images are pushed into slot 0. So let me just open an image here so we can play around while we're talking. All right, now we have an image. You can see it's pushed to all the different tabs, and from all these tabs you could actually utilize all these different tools. Like I said, this is now in slot 0. You can make copies of this. I think a lot of people are going to use this little icon here. This is a copy slot button, so you can copy the current image to whatever slot you want, such that when you're loading various items, let's say we process a H alpha and then an O and then a sulfur, you can process it, push it to one of the slots, process the next one, push it to the next slot, process the next one, push it to the next slot, such that you can have them all in there while you're processing. And that's going to help with like combining them later. Let's say you want to load them into Perfect Palette Picker, or you just want to do an RGB combination. So let's go ahead and talk about the different functions now that I've added. So we talked about copy slot. There's a crop feature. Crop is pretty straightforward. You could toggle an auto stretch. You can define a crop area and then just apply the crop. And the crop is done. The next two are integrations with third-party apps. So you'll need Graxpert, download it, and StarNet, download it. When you first try clicking StarNet, it's going to ask you where you have the executable file. I think that's pretty standard. For Graxpert, for Mac and Windows, it's already stored in there from the installation, right? For Mac, it's looking in your applications folder. For Windows, it's looking in its various folder. If you're on Linux, the first time you click Graxpert, it's going to be asking you where it's located. You only got to do that once, and then it's forever going to be fine. So if you click Graxpert, it's just going to ask what smoothing you want. You click OK. A progress window comes up as it's accessing Graxpert in the background. Graxpert doesn't emit any progress or anything, just for the gradient removal. So this will just kind of be a blank screen until it's done, and it'll import the new image. And when it's imported, it'll say gradient removed successfully. You can click OK. And there's our new gradient removed image. For stars, it's going to ask you if the current image is linear. This is important because StarNet only works on nonlinear images. So if it is linear, you click yes. It's going to do a stretch in the background, remove the stars, and then unstretch it when it comes back in. Like in this case, no, we don't need it stretched, so we just click no. And then it's going to give you a progress window here. And then it's going to ask you where you want to save your stars only image. Save stars only image. I'm just going to stars only image.tiff. Yes. It'll say the stars were saved successfully. And the starless image was updated successfully. So now here's our starless image. To add the stars back is stars button here. Now this is where we could choose. If you have a file for your stars only image, you could use that, or from a slot. So if we do import a stars only image into one of our slots, we can go ahead and use it there too. So we'll cover that later when we're actually doing the processing, but you guys can play around with that. I have a remove green function, which is, if anybody's familiar with PixInsight, it's called SCNR in PixInsight. It works very, very similarly, and you can just click apply, and it's going to remove the green in the image. This image doesn't have any green to really remove, but that's what it does. The next one here is it's a little water droplet with the letters pH into it, a little chemistry joke. It's for background neutralization. So in this one, you can click it. You can draw a little sample box and then apply background neutralization. And that way you can neutralize your background with that. Another one is white balance. So white balance is interesting here. I'm going to go ahead and put the stars back so I can show you. We're going to go from a file. I saved it to that stars only image. And we're going to screen them back in. All right, now our stars are back in. For white balance, we have a couple options for white balance. The first one is to do a star-based white balance. There's a detection sensitivity. It's going to try to find the brightest stars without going crazy, and it's going to use those stars. So you could adjust the sensitivity slider if you just want to focus on brighter stars. You can make it really low, and it's going to focus on all sorts of little tiny star-like structures. But we're going to go ahead and just kind of set it in there. If you click apply, it's going to do a stellar-based white balance. There's also a manual white balance if you just want to set the red, green, and blue yourself. And then there's also just an auto white balance. And all that's going to do is white balance the mean of the image, which is a very standard white balance. So I'm going to do the star-based white balance and then just click apply. And it's saying it applied successfully, detected 1,007 stars. So now it adjusted the white balance of our image there. The next one's kind of fun if you need to tweak the luminance. So if you click extract luminance, it's going to put the original RGB image into slot 1. And now in our working slot, slot 0 is going to actually be the luminance image. So this one, you can go into like frequency separation and, you know, mess with, I don't know, maybe wavelet sharpening. And then you can click combine it and apply the changes. Okay, it says the combined image was pushed to slot 0 for the processing. And now, so we still have our original RGB image in slot 1. We have our sharpened luminance image now still in our working directory. You can click the next button, recombine luminance. And it's going to go ahead and take that image that was in slot 1 and recombine it with the luminance here in slot 0. And now we have our updated image with the sharpened luminance. We can go ahead and close that preview. The next button, we're not going to touch that yet. That's RGB combination. You can load individual files if you want to load individual red, green, and blue files. Or if you want to use slots, you could load your RGB images into slots 2, 3, and 4, and it could use those. But let's do the first step. The next one is extract RGB, and it's going to say that the RGB channels were extracted and stored in slots 2, 3, and 4. If you go up to slots, you can pull up slot 2, 3, and 4. So this is our RGNB. What's great about these previews is you can swap any preview with the working slot 0. So if you do just want to tweak like the B channel, you can swap them out here. And now we can see that slot 4 had our RGB, and our working slot now has the B channel. So just depending on what you want to do and what you want to fiddle with, it allows you to move back and forth between all these different images. So now we have slot 2, 3, and 4. Those are filled with RGB. If you did go combine, we can say use existing slots 2, 3, and 4, and then just click combine. And then it's going to say the RGB image combined and stored in slot 0. So that's how you could use these various slots for doing like RGB combination. The next button is the contrast limited adaptive histogram equalization. This is similar to like local histogram equalization in PixInsight. I have a whole write-up on what CLAHE, I don't know how to pronounce the acronym, but the adaptive histogram equalization does, how it really functions. But if you click that, you'll have a whole new pane that'll open. Again, there's zooming. Clipping, the top one, the stronger that is, the more contrast is going to be put into your image. And then the tile grid size is, it's going to break up your image into those many tiles, both columns and rows. And then it's going to look at each one of those grids and do the local contrast enhancement in those grids. So if you have fewer grids, it's going to just look at the picture as a single holistic grid to do the local histogram equalization. Or if you bring that way up, you can get finer and finer details as it's looking at more and more processing grids as to applying the contrast enhancement. So this is something you're going to be able to play around with and give your image at the end of your processing just that little bit of extra kick to highlight some important areas. I'm just going to hit apply. And it's going to say CLAHE was applied successfully. And then one final function here that I have is, especially if you have a stars only image. So let me go ahead and open a stars only image. I'm going to move our current one to slot 1. I'm going to go ahead and select a stars only image. So here was our stars only image from StarNet. Let me zoom way in. The next operation is morphological operations. So this is going to be doing either erosion, dilation, opening, or closing. This changes objects based on their morphology. So if we turn it off, you can see it has all these stars in here. If we erode with a radius of 3, it essentially shrinks everything by that radius. You can see how much tighter and tinier all the stars got. So this is no erosion, erosion of 3. You can even do multiple iterations, which it gets very, very strong, very, very fast. The other direction is dilation, where if you want to make them all bigger, you can do that. But I think most people are going to get the stars stretched the way they want, and maybe apply a little morphological operation on them such that only your real prominent stars are going to shine through on your final image. Again, this is just processing taste, personal preference, how powerful you want the stars. So I think I've probably messed up my image here a little bit just by throwing in a narrow band image and doing a bunch of neutralization and white balancing, but I think you guys understand the power that can be done within Seti Astro Suite now, just with a lot of these functions, right? So like I said, next video I'll put out actually processing an image, going through, you know, like cosmic clarity, sharpen denoise, Graxpert, star net, stretching it, doing color balancing, kind of the whole workflow within Seti Astro Suite. But this should be enough to get you guys just trying stuff in there, right? There's little descriptions underneath what each of these buttons do. They're in the functions tab. You could have your slots to play around with, moving images in and out of them and doing different combinations. Perfect palette picker. When you click load H alpha, it's going to ask, do you want to load it from a file or a slot now? So you can tell it which ones you want to do. So you could actually process images in here and then combine them into your palette. So a lot of possibilities now. Let me know if you run into any issues. It was a lot of updates to try to get all this stuff to work together. I'm really excited about all this functionality. I hope everybody gets a lot of use out of it. Please comment, like, and subscribe.